Justice and peace to each and every one of you. This is your servant of a man cop, the world's top cop with news uncut. A lot of people all across the country and the world have seen this specific road rage incident here in Harris County of Houston, Texas. It was a victim in the car with his 2-year-old in the back seat. They're driving. He noticed someone follows him. He comes to a stop. A man exits his truck. He's a veteran from the Navy, assaults him while he's at his vehicle. While he's being assaulted, this victim is getting ready to leave that location in the vehicle. The lady's in the passenger seat of the suspect. She gets out of the truck with a loaded weapon, fires at the back of the victim's car where the 2-year-old was. While he's driving off, you are getting ready to see this suspect, the female suspect, Ortiz, fires another shot while the car is driving away from the location, keeping in mind that this is during rush hour, daylight. People at work, there's businesses there, there's vehicles driving by, there's vehicles right near the incident, watching and recording the incident while this lady fires 2 shots at this vehicle. You're getting ready to see this, and I want you to watch it, and I want you to understand after you get ready watching this that you're going to get some key points that's going to be important for you to understand. The importance of having a weapon, when to use the weapon, when you ought to even present a weapon, and when not to present the weapon, and when not to shoot that weapon, as you will see based on this video clip that no one has been able to talk about. Because guess what? Now you're getting ready to hear this. It's going to be very important that you take action on what you hear, so that you won't be one who's going to be charged for aggravated assault of a deadly weapon or assault itself, as these 2 individuals, the female for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and for that male for assault on the victim. As you can see, the way the victim vehicle was positioned, he notices the driver come towards him, and it is stated that the suspect began to assault him. First of all, you should never, in a road rage incident, ever be so mad that you get out of your vehicle and approach another vehicle, because you don't know what that person has in their vehicle. This victim could have had a weapon, and quite frankly, he could have used that weapon to shoot at this suspect who approached his vehicle. So not only does it's a two-way sword here, and it could have been even more deadlier and violent, and certainly we could have had 2 or 3 people dead, all 3. In that case, the suspect came to this vehicle without a weapon, as you've seen. But the suspect's girlfriend had a weapon. The victim, it doesn't state that he had a weapon, because if he did, I'm sure he probably would have used that weapon. So he assaults the victim, and the 2-year-old is in that car. The suspect had them notice a 2-year-old in the car, because I know the 2-year-old was crying. It was a terrible situation. So while he's fighting, he's getting ready to leave that location, because rightfully so, and that was a wise thing to do. He had enough room in the position to get out of that threat, away from that threat. Now, while he's doing that, that's when the female, Ortiz, the suspect, has the weapon and fires inside that vehicle. When you have a weapon, you should never use your weapon without having a clear mindset on what you're going to do with that weapon. Because if you use your gun out of anger and rage, you're going to do something that is going to cause you to be in jail, in prison, for your actions with a loaded weapon and your anger, with anger, madness, and a loaded weapon equals jail time and can equal someone being killed from your actions, from the weapon that you have when you are angry. Never use a weapon when your emotions are high and when you are angry. And Ortiz had a weapon. She's mad. Her boyfriend's mad. They both are violent, and they approach this vehicle in a violent nature. And of course, violence will equal more violence with deadly violence. And the weapon is a deadly use of violence when it's used inappropriately, as you have just seen. So if you don't hear anything else, you should never use your weapon when you are in a rage or in a mad state towards another individual, because you will never make the right decision. But here's the other thing. If you are enraged, and while you're enraged, a threat is coming towards you because of something that you did, you still shouldn't use your weapon. You should use common sense to think clearly before you make any movement towards pulling that trigger. And that's going to be it's a very tough and a very slippery slope on that situation. Secondly, when you get ready to use your weapon in public, on the road, or anywhere where there's people around, there's nowhere you can go where there is no people, certainly during the daytime. Now, I'm going to give this quick tip, and this is very important too. Now, to know more, you're going to have to understand that there are some things that you're going to have to do on your end to make sure you get all of the training and the tools necessary to make sure you, as a legal gun owner, have the best options available in the training for you and your family when you have a loaded weapon, on the do's and don'ts with your weapon. And now, before I even go there, I want you to understand this, that when you are in the presence of other people and other elements, those things have to be taken into consideration when you know you're going to use that weapon, or possibly about to use a loaded weapon in a surrounding area of people, businesses, and traffic. But this lady with that weapon obviously had no clue and had no understanding of that, even though her boyfriend is a veteran of the Navy who understands the importance of weapons and of firing a loaded gun. He didn't even consider that. I'm sure if he would have, he would have already taught and trained her and with some basics. But this just also goes to show, just because you may have a title behind you as a veteran, or someone of a military background, or law enforcement or government agency background that is familiar with weapons, that don't mean very much when it comes to situations when you know that you can or cannot, or situations come about that you may have to use a weapon, how to properly use that weapon, when to use it, when not to use it, and how to use it. Do you understand? And there's plenty of case studies I can go through, but that's for another time. But understand this, that the elements that you are in dictates when and how you should use that weapon. And she didn't even use that weapon based on the elements correctly that could have killed not only the victim, but could have killed the 2-year-old and could have killed innocent people in their vehicles, while she recklessly fired her weapon twice at the victim's vehicle while it was moving. by the way, also. That's a whole nother thing. So now you're dealing with someone who's reckless with the gun, who shouldn't have a loaded gun, uses this gun towards a vehicle that she had no clue who was inside that vehicle, just aimed at the vehicle and shot at the person, the victim in the vehicle, without having no probable cause to do so, when she or even the victim had no threat towards her, and she didn't pose no threat towards the victim, but she took it upon herself to get out of the vehicle with the loaded gun to pose a threat to the victim because she had the weapon. He didn't have the weapon. The only weapon that he had was his mindset to have the ability to get out of the threat area, and that's very important. And when it comes to dealing with a life or death situation, to be able to think quickly, and it is because also he had his daughter, which even made it even more of a need to quickly get out of the threat area. And while he was leaving the threat area, shots was being fired by Ortiz. And I'm gonna give you one more. This is very important. To be able to understand all details when it comes to a weapon, a loaded weapon, when to use a weapon, how to use a weapon, even though you've been through your course in training of how to load and unload, aim and fire your gun. It's pretty basic stuff. Just because you got a license or you've been trained doesn't mean that you can go out amongst society and just do what you please because you got a weapon. And another thing, when you have a weapon, you shouldn't be the one exposing your weapon for all to see you in your full glory with a gun on your side, and you just think that you're untouchable. You're putting a target on your life. But that's another subject too, for a whole nother situation. But keep in mind, to understand all of the elements before having a gun, when you have a gun, when you're in a situation where you may have to use the gun, and after the fact of a situation, what to do while in the situation when you may have to use that gun. All of this is imperative to understand that you need, as a gun owner, CPIIA. And if Ortiz, the female that had that weapon, and the Navy veteran, Mr. Green, the suspect, would have had CPIIA on their behalf, and keep in mind, even the victim would have had CPIIA, this would have definitely gave them all of the tools and the assistance necessary to ensure that they would not have been clueless on what to do in a dangerous situation dealing with the use of a loaded weapon. CPIIA, Citizens and Police Immediate Interactive Assistance. And if everyone in that area has CPIIA, I guarantee you the very fact that Green and Ortiz was able to get back in that truck and ride off and no one knew their whereabouts is another problem. And the solution to that is to be able to give every individual in every community in every city the power and the know-how to not be one who just sits off or stands off or looks off and record off on the side while a crime is being committed, to boldly do that, but to not take the active, incorrect measures and steps to do what is needed to do to ensure that a suspect or a criminal who harms or even attempts to harm or commits a crime will never get away. If everyone in the community is on one accord and has the training with CPIIA, it will make it impossible for a criminal to be able to get away with a crime and not be caught immediately. And that is the power of CPIIA. And if I were you, a gun owner or a citizen, regardless of your age or race, regardless of your gender, your economic status. CPIIA is the only thing in the missing link, and is now available to change everything that you know when it comes to danger assessment, crime assessment, suspect assessment, weapons assessments, utilizing the assistance that CPIIA gives to give you, the victims and the citizens, the power back against all criminals anywhere at any given time. And this is News Uncut.